level, which one do you want? Pick any one you want. Cut the knowledge, look at the reality, look at the politics, look at the world. You will see no one's doing the real job. That should be sufficient evidence for you and I to say that even people like Mahatma Gandhi, when he was going to take over India, he says, we will take it over like Hussein destroyed the Umayyad Empire. You know that when he started the embargo of salt in India, he had 72 followers. Did you know that? He walked towards the sea with 72 followers. Then thousands joined him. If a Hindu like him can understand the message, what about you and me? You think people don't know? This is the blessing of Imam Hussein in Karbala. We need to teach our children this understanding. This empowerment of message, wisdom, the perfection of our Imam, how he moved, how he spoke, how he worshipped Allah. Right on the battlefield, he prayed. Half his army was killed because of salah. He didn't stop. That's the message of Imam Hussein. A Muslim prays. Zainab alayhi salam fought for her hijab. Sisters, you need to fight for your hijab. If this is not Karbala, then what is it? All of these are messages for us to follow. And I seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's grace in giving me the spirit to see the depth of Imam Hussein's message. To see his wisdom when he went forward and gave his soul. And he looked at me and says, Hal min nasirin yansuruna. Who is there to help me? He said, Ya laytana kunna ma'akum. Oh, I wish I was there with you, Imam. Imam replies, you are with me. It is not your fault that you weren't born in my time. You were born in a time which Allah chose. So do something about it. Represent this religion properly, and I will do your ziyarat. You know, there was a woman in Iraq whose son was killed. She actually was in Iran. Actually, she was in Iraq. And her son went to fight on the side of the Islamic Republic, but he did covert action, covert. And the son did not tell his mother that he was doing this. He went across the border, he represented the haqq, and he fought against the oppression. And she did not know. She had a dream. Her son was at the grave, was in the grave, dead. She was doing his ziyarat. And there was a handsome young man next to this grave. And she approaches the grave and she says to this young man, she says, what are you doing on my son's grave? Why are you reciting? He looked at her in the dream and says, I am Hussein ibn Ali, doing ziyarat of your son. This is a true story, a true authentic story. The mother started to cry. That evening, the soldiers came, the secret police came to tell her that we have bad news to tell you that your son has been killed. She says, I already know. In fact, when they came, she says, you have come to give me news of my son's departure, haven't you? They said, how did you know? Your son was doing secret operations. How did you know? She said, because I saw him. And I saw this man doing ziyarat of him. And I saw Hussein ibn Ali doing ziyarat of this son of mine. Why? When you give your life for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the imams come and visit us. They say this is an honor that we have done. We have given our souls to these people are following Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the message of Karbala. After the tragedy of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, as you know, Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salatu wasalam had to struggle and suffer at the hands of tyrants. And historians say that Imam Zainul Abidin, it's very painful, but I conclude on this. It's a pain that should not be theatrical pain. It should be a principal pain. A pain that is in the heart, that anytime I want to do something haram, I should see that face looking at me and says, I gave this life for you. You cannot be violating the laws of Allah when you know what our message is. The same Imam Zainul Abidin, when he used to walk on the streets, the butchers used to close the windows so they don't see. So he doesn't see bodies, he doesn't see animals beheaded. Whenever Zainul Abidin would cross, they would close the window. Because he says, a man like him who has seen so much, that he only saw his father and his whole family butchered, how would he feel to continue with this? This was Imam Zain al-Abidin. He wrote Sahifa Sajjadiyah for us after Karbala. Every dua is a gift for us. Any problem you have, there's solution. I always shake my head. I said, how does a man of this caliber, after having witnessed his own father's death and his whole family's death, has the courage to sit and write a dua for me? That's love. And Imam Zain al-Abidin shows us akhlaq. Finally, that Hasin ibn Namir had denied him water when Imam Zain al-Abidin was leaving Karbala. After the tragedy, they had chained Imam Hussein. It was very hot and Imam was being pulled. And Imam looks at Hussein and says, I'm thirsty, give me some water, it is my right. Hussein bin Namir takes the water and he spills it. He says, no water for you. Imam says, no problem. الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ قَالُوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. Imam Zain al-Abidin does not forget that, but Imam is showing me moral characters. He said, Hassanain, have you seen this? Have you learnt this? I said, yeah, Imam, I learnt this. He says, now let me show you how I behave. This is how you should behave. Umayyad Empire was in chaos. And Imam Zain al-Abidin now is in Medina living freely. And he is busy in the dark of the night going around with grain and water to feed the poor. And the same treacherous person called Hussein bin Namir is now wandering the desert thirsty looking for water. How Allah shows a beautiful example. And Imam meets him and this man is begging now. And Imam gives him grain. And while the Imam is pouring the water for him, he sees the mark on his wrist. He sees the mark on his wrist. And Hussein bin Namir looks up and he realizes this is the same man he said no to. Imam looks at him and said, oh Hussein, this is me, we are the Imam. I will not deny you water. Allah la'anatullah al-qawm al-zalimin.
لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين رحمة للعالمين الرسول المصدى المصطفى الأمجد المحمود الأحمد أبي القاسم محمد وآلہ الطیبین الطاہرین المعصومین المظلومین المنتجبین اما بعد فقد قال اللہ تبارک و تعالی فی کتابہ المجید وفرقانہ الحمید وقولہ الحق بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم المال والبنون زینۃ الحیاۃ الدنیا والباقیات الصالحات خیر من عند ربک صلوات الباقیات الصالحات مرتبہ اور صلوات پڑھے گا بآواز بلند. عزیزو ابھی آپ نے مہمان خطیب سے سنا. موضوع ہمارا جو چل رہا تھا اس کے تعلق سے بات کو آگے بڑھانا بھی ہے اور اسے مکمل بھی کرنا. یقیناً آئندہ مجلسیں ہوں گی جس میں اس موضوع کو مکمل کیا جائے گا، جو آپ کا انگریزی کا موضوع تھا اور جو اردو کا موضوع تھا. ساتھ ہی ابھی آپ نے آنسو اور گریے کے تعلق سے چند باتیں، چند نکات، چند پوائنٹس سنے. آئیے وقت مناسب ہے تو میں اسی کو آگے بڑھاتا ہوں کیونکہ میری تقریر کے لیے وقت بہت کم بچا ہے. آنسو کے تعلق سے وَبِيَضَّتْ عَيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْحُزْنِ فَهُوَ كَظِيمٌ حضرت ابراہیم کا حوالہ دیا، حضرت یعقوب کا حوالہ دیا گیا. سورہ یوسف کے اندر ہے، آیت کا نمبر 84 ہے کہ حضرت یعقوب اپنے بیٹے کی جدائی میں روئیں. قرآن مجید نے خود سورہ توبہ میں کہا فَلْيَضْحَكُوا قَلِيلًا وَلْيَبْكُوا كَثِيرًا، اور تم ہنسا کم کرو، رویا زیادہ کرو. پھر اس کے بعد یہی رونے والے ہیں جس کی مکمل آیت کریمہ کی کسی اور وقت تلاوت کروں گا تاکہ اس کے ایک ایک حصے کی جو ہے وضاحت ہو سکے، ایکسپلینیشن ہو سکے. لیکن یہی وہ ہے کہ جس کے لیے قرآن مجید کے اندر دوسرے مقام پر کہا جا رہا ہے سورہ مریم میں آیت 59 میں کہ وَإِذَا تُتْلَى عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتُ الرَّحْمَنِ خَرُّوا سُجَّدًا وَبُكِيًّا، اور جب ان کے سامنے ہماری آیتوں کی تلاوت ہوتی ہے تو وہ روتے ہوئے سجدے میں گر جاتے ہیں. تو یہ رونے والے ہیں جن کی مدح کر رہا ہے قرآن مجید. عزیزان گرامی ایک چیز اور کہتا چلوں، قرآن مدح کر رہا ہے رونے والوں کی، اور رونے کے تعلق سے امام فرماتے ہیں قیامت کے دن تمام آنکھیں روئیں گی. رونا، اس حدیث سے پہلے ایک جملہ اور شریعت کا بتاتا چلوں. نماز کے اندر کوئی ایسا عمل جو خلاف نماز ہو کیا جائے نماز باطل ہو جاتی ہے. رونے اور ہنسنے کی اہمیت کو سمجھیں آپ. ایسے اعمال ہیں، کھائیں گے نماز باطل، بولیں گے نماز باطل، پیئیں گے نماز باطل، تالی بجائیں گے نماز باطل، ہلیں گے آگے بڑھیں گے نماز باطل، بغیر تقیے کے ہاتھ باندھ کر نماز پڑھیں گے نماز باطل. اب تقیہ کون معین کرے گا یہ بھی ایک الگ موضوع ہے.